Stream. Hier ist das Stream ist nicht so früh. 0:21 Uhr. Ist so ein bisschen spät. Wir gehen auf das Party Royale Event an. Ein bisschen Spaß. So. We are the people. We the people. It's more than our words. Oder 10 more than a word. Keine Ahnung. Das ging schneller als gedacht. Hallo Luca. So. Ach, das wollte ich jetzt nicht. So. Wo ist deine Emote? Hört irgendwie gleich die Elektrosfinger. Das ist ein bisschen. Ja, so ein bisschen was ich ja eh nicht an. Gut. So. So. Komme ich wieder rein? Gut. Sind schon fast alle da. Manche denken immer, das wäre bei der Hauptbühne. Aber es ist ja bei der großen Leinwand. Ja, aber wenn ich es tue, habe ich immer so ein schönes Ping. Ist mir auch fast ein bisschen egal. Ich spiele gerade nicht eine Runde, das ist ja. Hilfe! Wir sind Brüder. Das dauert jetzt noch ein klein wenig. Oh Gott, ich bin so müde. So. Kriege ich irgendwie noch Leute an? Oh, schaut mich hier gut schon was an. Hab Angst. Ist jetzt nicht, weil ich streame, oder? Want from me? What they want from me? What they want from me? Want from me? What they want from me? What they want from me? Want from me? Warum schlagen die mich alle? Ey, das ist so unfair. Das ist... Die sind alle auf einmal bei mir oben. Was habe ich denn getan? So, für die Emotes ausführen. Ah, haben sie jetzt deaktiviert? Ja, haben sie. Man kann keine Emotes ausführen. Haben sie deaktiviert gegen Diskriminierung. Was ich okay finde. Weil, ich bin ganz ehrlich. Es gibt viele Leute, die rassistisch sind. viele, sehr, sehr viele. Und es ist mir eigentlich egal, wie Menschen aussehen. Schwarz, weiß, ist mir egal. Wir sind immer noch Menschen. Was macht sie mit dem Busch? Nein, ich muss das nicht verstehen. Hat die Probleme? Also, ich denke die ganze Zeit, wenn so ein Flummern kommt, dass da was passiert. Aber nein, tut es nicht. Ich komme mit rein. Okay, kein Sound. Nicht verlassen Sound, okay. So, mal gucken, wie es mit der Twitch-Benachrichtigung hinterherhängt. Nicht Twitch, Twitter. Da könnt ihr mir auch folgen, falls ihr Lust habt. Falls nicht, dann nicht. So. Die Zuschauer des besten Erlebnisses bereiten Gegenstände und Fahrzeuge im Parterell derzeit deaktiviert. Die Mods sind während der Ausstrahlung deaktiviert. So. Oh, ich könnte echt fast einschlafen. Ja. Oh, tue ich nicht. Das tue ich nicht. Oh, tue ich nicht. Das tue ich nicht. Heute nicht. Aber es tut kann ich was trinken. Und so groß hier. Da oben ist jemand drauf. Da ist jemand schon eine Galaxy-Skin. Wie viele Minuten? So. Meine Schulter juckt. Und das juckt mich nicht. Oh. Ui. Ich werde jetzt natürlich nicht hier stehen beim Event. Aber ja. Hätte ja sein können. Den kann man ja auch draufstellen. Denkt ihr ernsthaft, das ist alles bei der Hauptbühne? Uff. Ah, Glitter. Hier ist ein Busch. Oh. Hallo Philipp. Nee, ich höre noch nicht das Lied. Das ist. Da wurde ich ja nicht gerecordet. Ich will den Kürbis raus. Wieder. Hä? Ernsthaft, die ist bei mir gefühlt. Ich kann sie noch weiter wegschieben, da ist sie nicht mehr so laut eigentlich. Doch. Ach, macht keinen Unterschied. Ist mir eigentlich doch gerade relativ egal. Das Einzige, was ich sehen will, ist die Show. Ach, was? Wieso? Äh, Hilfe? Erstmal darauf einen Schluck. Ja gut. Was machen die? Hab ich irgendwas verpasst? Steht irgendwo, dass wir alle jetzt den Bananenskin auswählen sollen? Ja. Ja, bin ich der Einzige, der das komisch findet? Ach ja. Du meinst jetzt nicht Eis aus dem Kühlfach, oder? Weil Schnee im Sommer gibt's nicht. Ist Eis. Nur halt ein bisschen verteilter Eis. Ein bisschen zersplitterter. Schnee ist ja klein zersplitterter, klein, kann ich wenn, klein zersplitterte Arten von Eis. So. Ja, gute Besserung. Ach, abgeworfen, ich habe abgeschossen lesen. Huch. Also dann, ja, die hat wenigstens eine Erfrischung. Weiß halten mit. Ah, halten, okay, ich wollte halt, ich habe halten gelesen, okay. Die. So. Wie ist es da? Wie sind eigentlich so viele Bananen? Die machen jetzt das nicht wie wegen dem Event, oder? Da geht es um Rassismus. Okay, das kann man auch als Rassismus. Es gibt ja manche Leute, die gegen Bananen rassistisch sind in Fortnite. Aber trotzdem Rassismus. Das ist hier das Thema gerade. Okay. Popsternchen. Also, ja gut. Ich kann auch nicht mal tanzen. Ich habe auch CSGO tatsächlich auch schon gespielt. Und da finde ich halt auch einfacher zu schießen. Oder zu aimen. Finde ich tatsächlich einfacher als in so anderen Spielen. Hä? Was macht die Banane da? Ja, da rollt gerade eine Banane. Die kann man Buckel runterrollen. So. Habe ich noch irgendeinen schwarzen Skin, um mich zu machen? Der ist schwarz. Ich will noch nachgucken. Der ist schwarz, der ist schwarz. Also, normaler Mensch. Ich will jetzt nicht rassistisch sein. No racist. Ja. Falls es gerade Leute sehen, die dunkelhäutig sind, das war jetzt kein Angriff gegen euch. Ich bin selbst dagegen, gegen Rassismus. Also, wir sind halt alle Menschen. Es bringt nichts, ob wir uns beleidigen oder so. Wir sind alle die gleichen Menschen. Das macht keinen Unterschied, welch Aussehen wir haben, welche Hautfarbe. Wir sind trotzdem gleich. Wir kommen vom selben Planeten, wir kommen... Ich wollte gerade sagen, für den selben Eltern, aber das stimmt wiederum nicht. Ja, schön, dass da Gegner sind, ich brauche Waffen und Minis. Die Event beginnt bald. Ach, weil die auch alle was machen, mache ich auch was. Ich bekomme relativ viel Angst. So, jetzt bin ich beide farbig. Ah, die OG-Musik, die passt. Was bist du eigentlich? Das sieht aus wie ein Auge. Ah, okay. Du hast 2 Löcher. Das Ding sieht aus, als würde es aus dem Weltraum kommen. Tut's aber, glaube nicht. Sieht sehr alt aus. Aber ich muss ernsthaft sagen, ich mag das, wenn es so alt gestaltet ist. Wenn jetzt hier zum Beispiel die Treppen so gestaltet sind mit so ein bisschen Stein, was ein bisschen raushängt, das finde ich cool. Ich habe halt so einen alten Stil, finde ich, was auch Musiktechnik angeht. Was machen die? Oder zumindest die Banane. Ich will, dass das ganze Bild drauf ist. So. Ding. Ach, die Mucke. Lass mal das Lama da aus. Das Einhornlama. Nein, Hilfe bitte. Ich möchte allein im Bild stehen. Nein! Belästigung. Danke. Ah, ich dachte jetzt schon, es fängt schon an. Was kommt jetzt für Mucke? Auflassen. Mucke ist aus. Was passiert? Wir warten auf, du weißt, was in Amerika wahrscheinlich passiert ist, das mit den... Show startet, okay, okay. Du weißt, was in Amerika wahrscheinlich passiert ist mit den, sag ich mal so, wir machen gerade eine Show gegen Rassismus. Was ich auch schön finde. Also denke ich, dass es eine Show gegen Rassismus ist, weil, ja, das Event heißt We Are the People und neben mir ist Fotos. Nein, wäre schön aber. Ja, ist halt ein Thema, wo es darum geht, dass wir halt alle Menschen sind und es ist egal, ob jetzt einer dunkelhäutig oder hellhäutig ist. Ich glaube, so eine Show geht's. Weiß ich gerade nicht aus dem Kopf. Kann ich den Text vorlesen, der hier irgendwie stand? Gibt's den Text noch? Nee. Die Show beginnt in Mach Chinesisch. Hallo Noski. Was macht die Banane eigentlich da unten rechts? Die dreht ja komplett ab. Lala Spendior ins Rosterie in wahrscheinlich spricht Elle Paket, das ist Französisch. Nee, oder? Weiß ich nicht. Dann. Ich glaube, das jetzt was drüben kam auf Französisch. Ich bin mir nicht sicher. Die Show beginnt in blablabla. Wo ist eigentlich das Englische? Ah, da, Show starts in. Ich brauche 1 Minute, um das komplett durchzuschalten, um alle Sprachen. Da stand aber tatsächlich, nach dem Event sollen wir mit Freunden das Thema bereden. Warte. Die Galerie. Screenshots. Also steht, was ist We the People. Opulus an Units präsentiert We the People X More Than a Vote. Eine Talkreihe, in der Persönlichkeiten aus Sport und zu Wort kommen und junge Erwachsene etwas gegen die Wahlunterdrückungen zu unternehmen, die sich besonders stark auf die Black Community auswirkt. Ja. So. Elan war halt kostenlos. Was gibt's da noch? Ja, ersten Start am Dienstag, den am 29. um 1 Uhr. Wählt den Modus Battle Royale aus, geht auf Party-Ral und begebt euch auf die großen Leinwandbild. Oder? Habe ich richtig gesprochen? Ich glaube schon. Auf der Insel. Das Event beginnt um 0 Uhr. MSC. Unterhaltet euch danach mit Freunden über das Thema. Steht da. Auf schwarz und weiß. Nee, auf weiß. Schwarz auf weiß. Ja, schwarz auf weiß. So rum. So. Show starts in. Ja. Nee, danke. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Das war's, das Event. Schaut da bitte beim nächsten Mal vorbei. Nee. Party and
They mad, they high. Thinking the badge is better than having some heart. Okay, look now, look how they running. They beating white people down just to show us what's coming. Or to show us we nothing. Or to show us we only welcome when singing or balling. Shut up and dribble. High, rock, low.
Hey everybody, I'm Carrie Champion. Welcome to We the People. So today we are having a very candid conversation with athletes and artists who want to make sure that you use your voice to vote. Voting is your voice. So we have so many different issues.
Na, wegen den Rassismus in Amerika. Deswegen.
So I'm looking forward to these conversations. I think you'll be educated as well as entertained.
Der Rassismus ist ja auch nicht nur in Amerika, sondern auch in Amerika, komplett auf der Welt.
Those resources are imperative as we try to change our future.
Yeah.
Hallo,
there's no way that we can talk about hip-hop or even the fact that we want to talk about activism, black voter suppression, without bringing in this guy straight from Port Arthur, Texas. We are talking about Bumby. He is an activist, a scholar, and an all-around gentleman. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Bun, I don't want to start heavy, but I guess I have to because that's where we are in the world today. It's heavy as hell. And when you think about what needs to happen in this country in terms of change, what's the first thing that you think
of? Equality. That's pretty much the first thing that comes to mind, right? Black people need to be seen as equals in this world. You know, we had to fight
Ja,
just to be
Philipp, es geht um
recognized
das
as a
Thema
full citizen in this
Rassismus
country
nicht
and
nur
not
wegen den Demonstranten
three-fifths.
The
in
world is not seeing
Amerika.
what we've known for so long in the
Es
culture
geht um
and in the community.
Rassismus auf der
The one
kompletten
way that we
Welt,
can
nicht
fight
nur
is
wegen
obviously
der
voting. Talk
wegen
to
der
me about what
Demokratie
voting means
in
to you.
Amerika.
I hear people all the time talking about one vote doesn't matter and that voting doesn't make a difference. If that's true, why do they work so hard to suppress the black vote? Because they understand the power of the vote. And so it's time that black people collectively also understand the power of their vote. And not just on a national level, because a lot of times we only have this conversation every 4 years. People need to be very much involved in their local politics. They need to understand who their elected officials are, where they stand on issues that affect you. And you need to use your vote to either support the ones that care about you and your condition, or to elect people who do. A newer initiative that we're dealing with is educating felons, right? So in the state of Texas, if you're a
30% ist schon
felon,
zu
right,
wenig.
if you've been
Aktuell
to jail or to
verbreitet sich das
prison,
immer mehr und
but
mehr.
you're no longer on probation or parole, you have the right to register to vote. Another thing that was just brought to my attention, there's an initiative called the Orange, which is happening not just in Houston, but all over the country. If you're in jail currently during pretrial, but you have not been convicted, like you're still in jail waiting for your day in court, you are still eligible to vote.
And you said something so key. They work so hard to hope that we stay uninformed, but more importantly, to suppress the black vote. If you could do one thing with this message that we're trying to send today about how important voting is, what type of images would you like our people to understand and see when they go to these polls and vote, or when they cast their ballots?
I think the images that we've all seen, you know what I'm saying, for decades in this country, if not centuries in this country, we've seen black people oppressed, we've seen black people attacked. So every time you look back and you see those old black and white images of people of color being attacked by dogs and people of color being sprayed with hoses, that's what they were fighting for. Back then, they were just fighting for a chance to vote. People like Martin Luther King Jr., people like Malcolm X, these people died to help us be in a position to have the power that we have now, which is to be able to cast a vote and make a decision about the people that have controls over our lives. So, I mean, if you in your own community need a reason to vote, look at a person like George Floyd. If the people in your city are not open to police reform, are not open to having the conversation about defunding the police, are not open to issues concerning economic equality, judicial equality, and racial equality, right? If they're
Philipp,
scared
es
to
geht
say
nicht
Black
darum,
Lives Matter,
es geht,
you have the power to
es
put people
geht
in those
generell
positions who do believe that
um
Black Lives
Rechte
Matter,
und
who do believe in
Rassismus
racial
und
equality, economic equality,
es
judicial
ist
equality, right? Who see us as human beings. And if the
wichtig, dass
people
es
in your community don't feel that way, vote them out.
erzählt werden
It's that
muss.
simple. It's just vote them out. We don't have enough time to sit around and hope that people change their minds.
Yeah, Bumpy, you point out something so important. We have the power, and that is in our vote, and that is with our voice, and that's how we use our voice. I think of where we are right now. People say this is a particular moment, but it is a movement, not just a moment, it is a movement. Why, in your opinion, was it George Floyd's death? Why was that the chosen brutality for people to say, oh my God, black people are still oppressed in this country, and it is not fair?
I think it's twofold, Carrie. In so many different encounters between people of color and the
Ich
police, there simply
grüße.
is no proof of what
Also,
happened in the interaction. And so what happens is, in a court of law, it tends to lean towards the policeman's point of view, right? In this case, we saw very clearly what happened. I think the other thing is due to the fact that everyone was at home, basically, during this time period in relation to the coronavirus. You couldn't avoid it.
also
Right? It was
erstmal
on every television
King
station,
Explorer,
it
ich
was on
grüße
every
dich.
social media platform.
Und Philipp,
Everywhere you
es
turn,
ist
you were constantly hit
halt,
upside the head with this message. You see in the
ich weiß
interaction
jetzt
that this
nicht, wie
man
ich es
did
sagen
nothing to
soll, weil
deter
ich bin ja selber nicht
what
schwarz und
happened.
ich weiß nicht, wie es für die
That's
ist.
so well said, because if you think about it, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't worth it, and he didn't have to lose his life. I think that you touched on something that a lot of people talk about, and that is now defunding the police. That has been such a huge conversation.
Es ist
There's
halt
so many
einfach nur
misconceptions around
so,
defunding and dismantling.
Leute
If you will, educate the audience.
wissen mit dem
All right,
Thema
so
nichts richtig
most people, when
anzufangen
they
und das
hear
ist
the
halt
term
eine kleine
defund the
Hilfe.
police, they tend to think of, oh, they're going to take away our police department.
Dankeschön,
Nothing could be
Vater.
further from the point. Defunding the police means that in certain communities, even Houston, take for example, we had over $1 billion allocated to our police force. Now, what is that money being used for? Some of that money tends to be allocated towards riot shields, right? Pepper spray, right? That kind of thing. That's only used against the people that fund this budget, right? So why would the people want to supply the police with the means to oppress them? If the police are concerned about the situations in certain communities with a higher crime rate, well, higher crime rates tend to happen in communities where there's not there's not employment opportunities, right? There's not a lot of social services, and people are going to do what they need to do to take care of themselves and their families. When the community has more opportunities for employment, more opportunities for upward mobility, then they tend to be a less of a strain on the government. They tend to have a lower crime rate, and because of that, we'll have less need for the police in those communities.
You are passionate about so many different things in terms of making sure that we are holding our leaders accountable. Talk to me about some of the other projects that you're working on.
Well, right now, obviously, being a part of More Than a Vote is essential. We're dealing with primaries in this
Nicht
country
ganz,
right
Philipp.
now, and we just want to educate people. We want to inform people because people are tired, they're angry, they're concerned, and they want information and they want action. And so we want to make sure that we give them the right information and lead them in the right direction. And we thank the people that do not look like us for
Ja, ich
standing with
kenne
us right
GTA.
now, because
Ich
it's
hab's
very
auch.
important that people who aren't black be involved, because if black people could have gotten rid of racism, we would have done it hundreds of years ago. And so I'm trying to use my voice and my platform just to let people know that if they feel like I do, there's a number of places they can go to enact change in their community. People need to know about how their city council runs. They need to know that they have the ability to speak when city council meets, to let them know that that's not the way that they feel their city needs to be run. Those are not the places that they feel the money of their community needs to be allocated.
And Bubby, even a step further, they can run for office in their local community. They can run for positions. Like, people act like they leave it up to somebody else. If you're upset, it's not hard to get on the school board. It's not hard to be a part of the city council. It really isn't. And depending on how small your town is, you could be a mayor. It's the power is with the people, and we need to just know that that's happening.
Absolutely. And it's always been with the people. You know, if you look at Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, right? She felt that there was a system of racism and a system of oppression that led to her son's death. And so what did she do? She ran for city council, and she was elected city council. Our own former president, 44, Barack Obama, right, started in the community as an activist, ran for an elected position, became senator, ran for another elected position, and became president of the United States. So don't think that you can't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of power. Your voice is enough to make a difference.
Amen. I feel like I need to go out and run for something. You gave me a rousing speech there, sir. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this. When I talk to my brothers, I have to ask you, as a black man, how are you doing? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm good. I have a very strong relationship with God, so prayer definitely works for me. I have children and grandchildren who are watching me, who are encouraged by what I do, and they're proud of me right now, you know, and that's really what matters, you know. The change starts at home, you know, so as long as you have a support system that believes in what you're doing and supports you in what you're doing, you have everything you need to go out there and fight the good fight. And for those that don't, there's a community of people here to help you. So you can go to places like morethanavote.org. There are many different places that will encourage you, inform you, and they will put you with groups of people that feel like you, that are ready to take action. So no one has to go about this alone if they want to do it.
Yeah, we're stronger together. People have been saying it, but that has much more meaning now that we are in our movement, not just this moment. Bumby, it has been an education, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Keep fighting the good fight.
Keep up the good fight.
Yeah, la.
So our next guest, I have to admit, I'm a fan, but there are so many different people that we could talk to, and I thought it was so imperative that we speak with her. You know her as Molly on the huge, successful show Insecure, HBO's Insecure. She also has a comedy special highlighting her Nigerian roots, and she's an amazing podcaster. Let's welcome in Yvonne Orji, everyone. You have such a beautiful way of making things funny, giving us our medicine with some candy, right? The humor and the healing. You bring all of that to your space. And right now, as you look across this country and how everyone is so broken and so upset, if it's not social injustice, it's the pandemic, it's depression, it's unemployment, the list goes on and on. How are you doing, quite frankly?
You know, I'm rediscovering self in a
Ich
way
muss einfach
that
sagen, Vorstellung ist
that
schön
is
und gut,
hard,
aber
but
wie sie es
necessary.
umsetzen,
That will
ist eine
lead to
andere
ultimate
Theorie.
joy. I know it sounds like a lot, but no, I think I personally think that God put all of us on a global timeout. Like we just, America hasn't done as good as other people when it comes to timeouts because everyone else is out playing at recess, and we're still in the principal's office hoping and wishing we can come out. But I think that if we settle into the timeout and really learn the lesson that we're supposed to learn from this season, I think we'll emerge better. We'll learn how to play well with others in more ways than one. And so personally for me, I'm taking this time to learn me in a new way. I feel like I'm being ushered into a new season, and I'm getting still because sometimes the busy confounds the work that we're supposed to actually be doing. We're busy doing other stuff, but we got work that we need to do on the inside. And I'm leaning into it. I'm like, dang, I thought
Warte.
I was gonna be able to rest like everybody else. And God's like, nah, we got work to do.
You know what? And I think that's what everybody is saying about 2020. It's demanding that we be better. And you said it's a global timeout. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's like everyone sit down, be humble, to quote the great prophet Kendrick Lamar. But like, no, seriously, sit down and let's reevaluate some things. Let us unearth and shake up the things that we have been trying to hide within ourselves, within our nation. I think America is going through an unraveling right now, a much needed, a much
Bitte.
necessary one. And I think all eyes on us, right? There is no, oh, I was on the subway for an hour, so I didn't miss that thing that happened. No, everybody was home. Everybody, was watching when George Floyd died, and everybody, no one could hide it. Everyone was watching when Amy Cooper called the cops. Like, this is a time where it's like, oh, we can't pretend it away. We can't excuse it away. No, 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 no. It's a global timeout. Sit down, watch,
Ich
and
weiß,
let's
Philipp.
learn. And globally, it's like, hey, we were going business as usual, but it ain't usual no more. Like that's old. Anytime change occurs, it's very uncomfortable. And so right now we're sitting with we're getting we're getting comfortable with the uncomfortable.
The minorities, we've been comfortable with being uncomfortable because that to me explains just the existence for whatever we want to do, how we break into our careers, how we live our lives, how we find ourselves one of the few or one of the first. And that's a lonely road. When you look at, and when you talk about this global timeout, everybody had to pay attention to Amy Cooper. Everyone had to pay attention to George Floyd. How is that helping us as a people, as a country during our global timeout?
I think, well, one, we're not minorities, Carrie. You already know it. It's like these labels that they put on us. It's like the same way of saying like black on black violence. Also, there's no white on white violence. It's branding,
Yeah,
right? It's all branding.
Yeah, you're right.
It's like white people kill white people every single day. So no, there is no black on black violence. And if you say black on black violence, well then let's brand white on white violence. Like I watch Investigation Discovery. Ain't too many of us been featured. So I just even like, but to answer your question, what does that do? I think what everyone expected is what has happened in the past when the world was still open, right? In that, okay, you had everyone from Trayvon Martin to Castillo to Sandra Bland. You had all of these lives lost, and Black people made some noise. We rioted, we got out in the streets, we started the Black Lives Matter movement, all of those things. And then white people kind of just like, oh, let's give them something. And then
Nicht
it's just
ganz
like,
viel. Nicht
is it
ganz.
over? It's like Oscars so black. Okay, good. We gave some Oscars. Are we good now? Like, are we even? And it's just like, oh no, 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 no. This is not about like a band-aid. It's like, yo, we might have to amputate the leg a little
Könnte
bit,
man
but
sagen,
it's all
aber
right because we're gonna by amputating the
er
leg,
hat
we're
schon
gonna save the
vieles
body.
zerstört.
And so I think that's what's happening now. Like America is realizing, like, oh, black people aren't just making a little bit of noise. Like the protests are still out. The conversations are still
Ich
being
muss
had. The
ehrlich
change is
sagen,
still being
manchmal
demanded.
ist es
And I
wirklich
think
so,
they're
Philipp. Das
seeing,
muss ich dir recht
oh,
geben.
this is not going away. And no, it's not, because we need systematic change.
What a beautiful way to explore what is happening and describe our country. We might have to amputate the leg, but that's to save the body. That's what's happening right now.
Was
That's
machen
beautiful.
eigentlich die Leute da oben
And to
drauf?
that end, I have to ask you this, because the way that we do that, we use our voice. And our voice right now in this world, in this country, is our vote. And everyone talks about voting and how important it is, but I feel like more than ever we understand that it's not just about voting every 4 years for the man in office. It's about your local elections. It's about the mayor. It is about the district attorney, the people who have the power to bring charges against police if police brutality is an issue in your community. If you care about your school district, you can run for the school board. I ask this of you, right? Your
Unsere
parents
Politik ist
are from
gerade
Nigeria. You are
sehr, sehr
Nigerian.
komisch.
You talk about that very
Könnt ihr euch noch
lovingly.
an die
What does
Zeit zu
voting
Artikel
mean for
13
you?
erinnern,
You know, I think
wo
voting
wir
is
alle
power. I
protestiert
remember,
haben?
you know, I became a naturalized citizen back in the 90s when, because I was still a minor, my mom naturalized, and so we were able to do it under her. And just even that power of like, we are American citizens and all the access that we have by
Ja,
being
ist er auch.
citizens, one of those
Wir dachten
access
alle
to power being
zur
voting.
Artikel
It's a
13
big
Zeit,
deal. It's a
wo wir
big deal
protestiert
because
haben,
not only are
wir werden alle gekauft.
do we have the opportunity to be in this country, but now we can be of the country. We can be of the system.
Corona ist auch eine Grippe und sie wird auch immer da bleiben.
What it actually affords.
Dagegen kann
But
man
I
nichts
think
tun.
going back to your
Wir
earlier
hatten
comment about
schon auch schlimmere
just
Ebola
the setup
und so.
of systems. I think we are done a disservice, either it's schools or whatever it is, and I'm not putting teachers on blast. I think teachers do a phenomenal job, but for some reason we do not, and give them all the raises. I know too many parents who are like, this child of mine, I do love them, but hey, where can I drop them off? And I do think that
Weiß ich gerade nicht noch.
because
Weiß ich
again,
gerade
when we
nicht.
talk about them, to your point, we talk about every 4 years. It's important to vote for the presidency. We don't realize, like, oh snap, we actually can vote about like how much our libraries get. It's like small things like that, but they make a big difference.
When you think of voter suppression in this country, what does it look like for you?
It's the systems. When we talk about voter suppression, we also talk about systematic racism, right? It's all the systems that's set up, and we've normalized. Okay, maybe your job will give you a half day, or maybe you'll be able to get this luxury. It shouldn't be a luxury. It should be built into the system. It should be built into the fabric of how we vote. But maybe you'll be able to get this luxury in order to enable you to go vote. Think about everything. Disenfranchised, marginalized.
Ja, nett gesagt.
Black person has to endure in a day. So in a day, you need to get to work. If something happens to your car, if something happens to your child care, if something happens to, there's so many factors along the way that can send you into a tailspin as an American. And then you add on as a person of color. If you're just trying to get to vote and you already have to go through all of these hurdles and hoops in your everyday life, imagine the one day when your voice really is supposed to matter the most in this country, but then you also see all the times that you tried to have your voice matter and then it's been shut down,
Ist halt so.
told it doesn't matter, and then you're kind of like, what's the point?
How do we keep hope though?
Durch Masken können wir uns ja auch nicht durch das Virus schützen, weil das Virus ist so klein, das kommt ja durch die Masken durch, wie Luft.
Have you met black people? By default, like hope is infused in our DNA. Like you know, like if we haven't been broken out through, be it through slavery, through capitalism,
give it to me,
colonization, through segregation, through I mean, listen, the history of black people in this country is at one point we were 3/5 people. That was a written law. And look at us now. We are whole. We are black girl magic. We are black boy joy. We are, you know what I'm saying? What I think about in terms of giving us hope, right? We're making a lot of people nervous right now, Carrie. We're making a lot of people nervous right now because they're like, dang, we put all these obstacles in their way, and these jokers are resilient. But that should give us hope. That should give us hope that, like, we can't stop, won't stop. I mean, I went to the school of Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag, Harlem shaking it right now. We can't stop, won't stop. And I think that's our motto. We can't stop voting and we won't stop voting. We can't stop marching and we won't stop marching. We can't stop thriving and we won't stop thriving.
To that end, because you
Sie muss sich mehr als ein Bunker bauen, eine Rakete. Bunker hilft auch nicht mehr.
What does activism look like? And I feel like back in the day, we had an idea. Yes, it is marching. Yes, it
Yeah.
is protesting. Yes, it is speaking out against things that we feel are not right or unjust. But talk to me about what
Ja,
activism looks like for Yvonne Orji.
Listen, activism, I think the beauty of activism is
wir
that
sind
it
eigentlich
has
eine
many faces, right? You're
Intelligenz.
going to have the people
Aber
on the front lines.
inzwischen
Like,
denke ich,
you know what?
dass die
Martin
Menschen
Luther
sich
King marched, but
irgendwie
there were a
etwas
lot of women who were in
zurückentwickeln.
the homes like,
Das
hey,
hatten wir
we
schon
need
mal in der
us. When they come
Menschheit, dass
back,
wir uns
this is how
zurückentwickeln.
we support
Das denke ich,
all
dass
the
wir das
people who are fighting on the front lines.
nochmal
And we're going
haben.
to be here doing what we know to do best here. And you know what? Somebody needs to bail them out of jail so that now we need to be in the community, getting money or whatever it is. So it's like everybody has a position to play. And so play your position like a shortstop, bruh. So whoever you
Wow.
are and whatever you do, play your position. So activists could look like, you know what? I'm not the one that's built to be on the front line, but you know what? My pockets go deep, so I'm gonna support the people on the front line. I'm a comedian. Black joy is a form of activism.
There's always a call for entertainers or celebrities that have the platform to do something. Why aren't you speaking out? I'm not a believer in thinking that it's mandatory. Like you said, everyone can be an activist and be activated in different ways. But talk to me about the connection. Talk to me about the marginalization in your world and how you feel like it even inspires you to say more and use your platform to do more.
Beneath the surface of what we do, like Nietzsche Nash
Ja,
says,
das
it's
stimmt.
the who, right? The who is the person who's going to be like, hey, let me call this out. Either blind racism in terms overt racism in terms of ways that we can be better, in terms of ways that we can actually be more uplifting to the community that you may not even realize that you're serving.
Before I let you go, talk to me about the urgency, in your opinion, for people to vote, our people to get out and vote this coming election.
Yeah, I mean, guys, Ryan, if you think you're tired now, I'm telling you right now, we cannot take this sitting down. We can't take this joking. I understand that it may be hard to figure out who to vote for, but at the end of the day, we got to vote for our families. We got to vote for our legacies. We got to vote for continued progress. We have to vote for upward mobility. We have to vote for equality in a way that is long lasting. And if we succeeded before, we can do it again. You talk about the whole. This is the time. This
Ich
is
würde
this
sagen
is not the
back
time
in the
to
80s,
to
aber
give
das
up.
wäre
This is not the
zurück in die
time to
80er.
pretend away that we
Ist
haven't
auch in den
made
1918,
progress.
also
We
gut.
have. There's still much more to be done. And you know what? We might have to get to a point where we pass the baton to our children and our children's children, but we still have work to do now for that generation.
Orgy, you are everything. You are Molly, but you are not Molly. But I love you so much as Molly on HBO's Insecure. You are an amazing podcaster, Jesus and Jola. Shout out to Lovey. And then we also have movies. Like you, the world, you're a model, a cover model. Also, wait, don't let me forget your hugely successful stand-up comedy special
Ja,
on HBO.
das
Girl,
würden die
I
sagen.
mean, you're doing it all. And I am so grateful. You are truly the dream, not just the American dream. You're the black girl, brown girl, do it all dream, the immigrant dream, everything. You're a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Was?
I really, really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Yvonne Orji, ladies and gentlemen, nothing but the best and excellence personified. Thank you so much, my dear.
I love you so much, Mama. Mwah.
Also gut, das endet in 5 Minuten.
Yeah, la.
So Atlanta has been one of the hotbeds in terms of political unrest and social injustice. We've seen so much happen in that city, and we've also seen so much come from that city, including one of our very own founding fathers of the civil rights movement, and that's Martin Luther King Jr. But right now, we want to welcome in someone who has used his platform to talk about voting, to talk about racial injustice,
Ja.
and how he's trying to help Atlanta's very own Russ
Stimmt.
joins us now. And we
Philipp.
Russ, I'm not going to fan out and tell you what are some of my favorite songs.
So.
Repeat on yours. We're going to get to.
Das Ding wird er jetzt. Ich werde gleich mal eingehen. Nur das Ding schließt sich eh gleich, deswegen mache ich den privaten Server auf. Was? Ja. So. Oh, tut der Ventilator gerade gut. Aber ich lasse mal lieber aus. So. Da muss ich hin. So, Autorun erstmal an. So. Ich gucke gerade auf den Chat. Ja. Das stimmt. Atom ist das gefährlichste, was die Menschen erfinden konnten, finde ich.
Black Lives Matter organizations, when we raised 500,000, we got on the phone with some of the women who started Black Lives Matter. I got on the phone with Tamika Mallory. I was on the phone with Karen Civil and talking with my friends to make sure the money went to like the correct places, and people who really need it. It's just about listening. That's all. It's about listening.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because the way I think of activism, for me, it looks very differently. It's not necessarily just protesting on the front lines. I think that's great. But what about being an activist in the way in which you have decided to be one? What inspired you? What did it look like? You said you raised money for Black Lives Matter. What did you do?
Aber ich hoffe mal, dass es wenigstens noch irgendwann für die Menschheit eine Wendung gibt.
So
wo sie irgendwann alles aufhören. Aber
years ago, I had like a string of festivals,
ich habe Hoffnung.
And I decided that I was going to wear T-shirts with a message on them.
Ey, ich habe einer Ping.
What better time to use a platform than in front of a bunch of people. So one of the T-shirts I wore was if you want to change the system, speak up. White silence is pro-racism, the whole thing. And it didn't really it kind of got swept under the rug back then. But when all this stuff started happening again, and it's been happening,
was wir retten könnten, wäre noch
I was like, man, I'm not the biggest artist in the world, and I certainly don't have the most white fans in the world, but
Tiere,
I got a good amount of people that I can definitely mobilize and turn into some money, and I know they're down for the cause because it's merch, it's a good thing, and I've always been outspoken anyway, and so how am I going to be in black culture and not be outspoken about racism?
And then I gotta ask you this, because you grew up in Atlanta, so that gives you a heads up, depending for so many people, because you're in the that beautiful black city where there are so many wonderful black leaders, almost so much great music and things that speak to our culture right now, and we are really, really getting our word out, especially with this platform today, and saying that we must use our voice to vote. Talk to me about what the importance of voting for you in this upcoming election.
Yeah, so I, full transparency, I had never voted before, ever. And because, I was one of those people who was like, my vote doesn't matter. And, and I don't know, maybe it's because I was younger, maybe it's because I really thought that, or I don't know, but I just think that it's got to, now this is a bit of a privilege to say it's got to a breaking point for me, because obviously it's been past the breaking point for black people, but I think that as a whole, the young people need to get out and vote, because we're the ones that never show up. You know what I mean? We never show up to vote, but we're the future. So it's like, look, we gotta go out there and vote, and then whatever happens, but at least we did our part. You gotta do your part.
You're very candid in saying that you just decided to vote, and I think there's a beautiful irony in the fact that you have your fans saying, because of you, I'm voting. Right. And there's something beautiful about that. But I want to know why now for you. Why in this moment is it important for you to vote? And What hit your spirit to say, yes, this is the time to do it?
Honestly, because I think that George Floyd really woke up a lot of people who, including myself, who I was vocal and outspoken about racism. I put it in my lyrics, I put it on t-shirts, I would talk about it in interviews, like, you know, I was vocal about it. But that video in that moment, I think me along with a lot of other people just kind of was like, all right, like words are simply not enough anymore. We gotta do something, whether it's raising money, whether it's voting, or all the above. Like we got to do something, you know. And I'm ashamed that it took that for me to be like, I need to raise money and I need to vote, you know. It's a shame. And I don't know, I guess it snapped a bunch of people out of it, you know. And even if you were and whatnot, it's time to actually put your money where your mouth is. It's time to go vote. You know, it's time to just stop talking about it and be about it, you know. And it's been time for that, but like I said, you know, I'm ashamed that it took me
Donald
this long
Trump
to actually really be about it. But I'm here now.
So Russ, we all know that this is going to be your first time voting. Tell me what that experience is going to be like for you in terms of what you're excited about.
I think, you know what it's going to do for me? It's going to let me know that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, and I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm being about it. Because, you know, for so long, and I know I'm not alone with this, but, you know, standing on the outside and just screaming about this and that, and this should change, and it's like, all right, but did you vote? You know? And so you know, I know it's going to feel good to know that I played a small role, you know. And that's the problem. I think the mentality of like, my vote doesn't matter needs to be changed to my vote, albeit small, does matter. It's a role I'm playing, and if I play my part and you play your part and he and she plays their part, then we make a difference. But you know, it'll feel, I have a feeling it's gonna feel very, very bigger than me. And I think when you realize that giving actually feels better than receiving, that's when you start wanting to do your part and contribute. So voting is an easy way to give, you know.
Auch wenn ich keine
E-Mails
habe, aber
given, much is required, and you have been given a huge platform. We are so grateful for you, Russ. Philanthropist, artist, community activist, first-time voter. We appreciate you for doing this, okay?
Thank you, I appreciate y'all.
Wir hatten jetzt schon 3. Ich gucke mal die Bilder durch, wie viele jetzt noch kommen müssten.
So cities like Atlanta and Chicago have been at the forefront of
Noch mal 3
discussions,
oder
especially
2.
around this country when we're talking about COVID-19 and systemic racism, as well as police brutality and what we can do in this country. Again, we're continuing our conversation. You know that your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. We can change where we are in this country. Currently, I'd like to welcome in Chicago Cubs right fielder Jason Hayward. I appreciate you. I brought in Atlanta and Chicago because I know you grew up in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, more specifically McDonough. Let's be technical. And you have been very vocal throughout this entire time in terms of what our country's been experiencing. Let's look at the past month and a half, if you will. What has been the hardest thing for you to deal with?
Du könntest mit mir Aufgaben machen.
Last month has just been going from the virus shutting everything down to us being called to action. You know, we've had multiple police brutality situations. We've had people protesting, wanting to get the message out. But I really realized that I need to be a part of the positive message and make sure that doesn't get lost in all the chaos going on, for people to actually hear from a reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved.
A reasonable, respectable person who cares about everyone involved, which leads us to more than a vote. It is a beautiful collective of Black athletes and artists. You are a part of that. Talk to me about why that's important for you right now, and this be a part of that collective.
To me personally, it's important to be a part of that because I've somewhat used baseball in my craft.
Muss gucken. Das letzte Mal, wo ich GTA gespielt habe, also zumindest auf meinem Kanal, habe ich einen Strike bekommen wegen irgendwas, weiß ich auch nicht.
Any moment in time, any walk of life, we can make a difference.
So tell
Aber
me
das Strike
in
wurde aber
your
jetzt
words,
zurückgenommen.
what does
Also
activism look like
eigentlich
for you?
unnützig.
In my words,
Mal
it
gucken.
looks like LeBron
Aber
James,
ja,
the biggest athlete right now on the planet, speaking
ich
up and
zocke auf
breaking the
PC,
ice for
PS4.
everyone. But I think for the
Ja.
first time, people see and hear from us. So now we have white teammates, we have teammates, we have
Ich
other
bin
people
frei
speaking
offen.
up and realizing, okay, like this is how we go about doing this. And to me, right now, social media, athletes speaking up, entertainers
Okay, hast
speaking
noch
up,
Glück.
like we're trying to do it more than a vote.
You said something I thought was so key because covering sports for so long, I know that it's tough for
Stimmt, mein Name
black
sieht man
players
gar nicht. Man
specifically
sieht ja nur meinen
in Major League Baseball to talk
PlayStation
about
an.
how they feel. Adam
Da
Jones
bist du.
did it in a very eloquent
Philipp.
way early on,
Oder
but there are
so.
very few that are vocal. You said you all were afraid.
Warte,
Why
speichere
use
ich mir
that
kurz den
word and
Namen.
why were you afraid?
We was afraid because in 2019 there was 68 of us total, and there are 38 teams. There's 25-man roster on each team. There's a 40-man roster, which is on each team as well. And there are many of us, so we're outnumbered in that sense, but not always in a negative way when it comes to our teammates and our clubhouses. But to get to this point, you have to move a certain way. You got to be careful what you say.
So.
You can't ruffle feathers. You can't come
Ich
off
gebe es
in a
einfach
way,
jetzt schnell ein.
much like other black entertainers,
Gib dir.
much like yourself. Probably having to live through life every day, but to get to the highest level, you gotta button up, you gotta be seen and not heard. So baseball is, like I said, it was time for us
PS4
to
ist
try and
kompliziert.
speak up and make a difference and show it's okay to do so because we can't be quiet anymore.
That is a button up, be quiet, be seen but not heard.
Ja,
That
bist
is
du.
a
Bist nur abwesend.
expression that a lot of black folks can relate to in whatever aspect of professionalism that they experience, especially if they don't work for themselves. They just feel that. That is also a socialization that we have as black folks, especially like you said, if you want to get to the higher level. And for so long, I felt it bubbling right underneath the surface that so many of us who were in whatever positions we were who had platforms were tired of pretending and looking the other way.
Im
and
Launcher,
spending so much time
abwesend.
making others comfortable while we were uncomfortable. Do you feel that this is the type of movement that is sustainable, or is it just for a time?
So it takes everyone joining in on the conversation, and right now I feel like more than ever there are as little things as possible to distract from bigger issues that we saw on draft day.
Okay.
We saw our president, Theodore Epstein, holding up a sign saying Black Lives Matter.
Wurde nicht gefunden.
Yeah.
Ich weiß nicht.
But now we're having those conversations as well. So I definitely think this is sustainable, and it's not always just
Da.
going to be the popular thing to do.
Abwesend im Launcher. Steam.
They know we care.
Jason, you said you think it's sustainable, that what you're seeing, especially with your colleagues in baseball, that this can be something where you're feeling more comfortable, feeling more safe to share how you feel about social injustice and police brutality. What are you doing right now in this moment with your platform to help change how we look at voting and how to educate the culture and the community about voting?
Well, first, what I'm doing, Carrie, is joining up with More Than a Vote and joining up with other athletes and entertainers to get that message out and use our platform in that sense as a group. And try to create a brand with this to make it something that's not just about the election coming, make sure that it's about people getting educated for years to come and figure out where to vote and how to vote. We've got people in different areas that cover different demographics and influence different areas of people. And as a baseball player, as a black baseball player, I feel like now, like we talked about, is finding the time to show people that you can use your voice in this profession. You don't have to be afraid. And to me, that can help a kid growing up. He can see me, he can see other guys that were in the video we posted saying, hey, this is what they're standing for. They're speaking up for these things, and it's okay to play baseball. It's not lame. It's not something I have to be as afraid of as I was before. So I feel like that's my role in this. I have a younger brother.
Kannst du mal bitte ihre Pünktchen für mich streicheln?
So I've got to lead by example. I can't just always, come up.
Falls sie gerade da sind und sich nicht bekriegen.
When I get asked a question on, what do we need to do to make
Oh,
changes?
das war einmal, wo ich ja bei dir war. So ein Ding, lag ja überall Katzenfell herum.
So many people, I feel like in Atlanta, they're on the move.
Okay.
You want to try to make a vote and try and cast your vote. You have to do it by mail. You have to sign up for that absentee ballot. Then you have to get another ballot in return. They have to send it back to you. Well, for me personally, they didn't send that back until it was too late. Right? We didn't get it in the mail to the address that's an Atlanta address at my parents' house. We didn't get that in the mail until it was too late. And then from other friends and family that are still in Georgia right now, I just hear about them being held in lines too long and trying to get off work. And we know how it is for any family.
Ja, das war ein
Black family in
Kriegsfeld.
the city or in the suburbs trying to take care of their family and trying to provide for them. You try to get off work and that, and then you're like, wait a minute. You start looking at the clock. It's like, oh, this is not going to happen today, right? And so I saw, Mayor Keisha Bottoms, reach out via social media to people and say, hey, I'm going to address these issues right now. I need y'all to stay in line and cast your votes. Keep hanging in there. So to me in Georgia, that's what that looks like.
Well, it's interesting that you even bring that up because there have been all these images specifically from Georgia because that's such a battleground where you see people, especially when it...
Natürlich, das höre ich nicht. So.
It's not fake. What you're saying, these examples of sending you your ballot too late after the fact or shutting down the polls at 6 o'clock while people still are in line, that's a real life issue. There needs to be some type of change. And I think that what we're doing right now is fair. But the idea of voter suppression, do you think that that is well known, especially with folks, within the generation, your generation?
I think it's known in our communities. Right? I don't think it's spoke on enough. I don't think there's been enough light drawn to it. Bring it to light. Let people hear about it. Let people learn about what that looks like, and get more people to say, okay, look, this is going to happen. We have to expect this, and we can no longer make the excuse. We can't say they didn't warn us.
Jason, everybody knows, or it feels as if everyone knows that the time is now. America's paying attention to us. We have their eyes. We have their ears. If you look toward the future, what are you most excited about in terms of...
Der war im Item Shop.
I'm excited about how fast the word is traveling. The word is being spread right now. The biggest athletes, the biggest icons, biggest entertainers are doing their part. But I'm also seeing people out there on the streets doing their part. When so many things got lost, could have very easily got in the commotion when it came to protests, and you saw rioting, you saw looting. People still stood their ground. People still went out there and said, look, we're doing this for the right reasons. We're going to come together. We're going to use drones. We're going to use social media. I feel like this is a new wave of getting things done the right way and just spreading the message.
You're right about that. And you're right. People are spreading the word unapologetically. We out here. We doubling down. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Right.
Wäre jetzt noch einer oder noch zwei?
Yeah, la.
Hey everybody, I am so excited to welcome a friend, a brother, family member, if you will, former colleague, maybe a great...
Ich glaube, das ist jetzt der letzte, glaube ich. Weiß ich nicht.
He does it all, and he's here to give us his time and his platform to talk about something that is so important, that is voting. Everybody, welcome Jalen Rose
Kann sein, dass der vorletzte
to
ist.
We the People. Talk to me about how important it is for the people who know you and love you and look up to you to talk about voting.
Initially, we have to get past the stigma of the
Der hat sich kurz angehört wie
systemic
DJ
racism
aus
that
GTA.
comes with the presidential race, governors,
Ja,
mayors,
stimmt.
senators, judges. We've been conditioned to believe that our vote does not matter. So usually when we looked up at all of those
Sitzt der ernsthaft in der Mitte? Tut das nicht weh?
not only did they not
So
look
auf
like
der,
us,
oh,
we didn't believe they were
auf
there to
den
represent
Sitzgang
our
so.
best interests. So therefore, as a collective, we didn't mobilize until Barack Obama, and we felt a sense of hope that finally
Sitzt er nicht gerade auf den also auf den
Gangschalter?
Gangschalter?
And I remember being at the inauguration in 2008. I made
Unter ihm müsste doch irgendwo der Gangschalter sein oder benutzt er einen
we
Greenscreen?
voted in 2016.
Sieht doch nicht aus wie der
We
Greenscreen
didn't
ist.
vote, Kerry. We didn't vote. And so many people try to make this political. This is not political. Me telling somebody to vote is like telling somebody to pay taxes. So that's one, getting over the stigma of nobody is going to represent our best interest. And then number two, the reality is that the person that gets the most votes doesn't necessarily win the presidency.
Nicht.
That's uncomfortable right there.
Können die bitte nochmal auf den
Because that's
Typ
actually
drauf
what took
zoomen?
place in
Ich weiß gerade seinen Namen
2016.
nicht.
The Electoral College chose the president. And if you put all of their pictures up, I'm pretty sure they look a lot more like each other than they look like you and I. How about that? And then the third thing,
Ja, stimmt, der sitzt in der letzten Reihe.
Oh man, they create barriers for us, Carrie. It's like you got to jump over the fence, you got to run past the dog,
Stimmt.
you got to jump on the hood of the car. The lines is 5 hours long. You get up to the pole and they don't work. Elderly people working in the city, while they got the young people who understand technology working in the suburbs. Like, these are all systematic things that try to discourage us from voting. And then finally,
Okay.
we don't have a day off to vote. We need to work. So we don't get a day off. It's gonna be a
Verstehst du
full day,
Droid?
and I gotta
Okay,
vote
er
to
spielt
pay
Detroit
my
Become
bills.
Human.
So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna mail in vote. And you know what you want people to realize, that counts too. So your vote will be counted if you're able to mail it in. So those are a few things that
Das
I
Ding
hope
ist,
that we
wir
can
sind
do to
Deutschland, nicht in
mobilize.
Amerika.
Shout to LeBron
Also
and his
unsere Stimme
team.
zählt nicht.
Shout to you and everybody involved. We will make a difference.
Well, let's talk about more than a vote.
Oh, good.
There is a black collective of athletes, of artists, coming together and saying voter suppression is a real deal, especially in the black community. When you just talked about, I got to work, so I can't go vote. And then when we do get in the booth, just in case we don't have to work, do we know who we're voting for? Not only do we have to vote, we got to be educated. And it's not always about the man who's
Philipp,
in
kannst
office or
du
the woman who's
kannst
in
dein
office for
Gesicht
president.
draufkleben?
It's about your local elections. It's about
Habe ich auf meine Farbbrille jetzt
who are
inzwischen
your
auch gemacht und
DAs,
Gesicht
your
draufgeklebt.
state DAs, like the people who actually make change in your community, who will change police brutality, who will make sure that your community is taken care of, who will defund police and hope that they can help you in stopping police brutality. So talk to me about why you decided to be a part of More Than a Vote and what it actually means.
Well, it means a lot to be involved with such an impressive collective, as you mentioned. And I've said this multiple times, and I know it can be uncomfortable when I say it, but a lot of times we have to get to the root of the issue before we find a solution. And the quote was, I wish America loved black people as much as it loves black culture. And this collective, by the way, represents in a lot of ways what's encouraging, but also disappointing about our role as black people in America. Because we were brought here as labor and to entertain. And we use those vehicles to get paid and move to the suburbs and be the idols of white kids. And so now that we have this collective, I would say sports and entertainment represent the most powerful group of black men in the United States. I'm talking about money, power, celebrity, the ability to mobilize, community involvement, their leadership, their intellect. And so to have all of us pull it in the same direction at the same time for anything that we're passionate about is going to be a difference maker.
Der Typ sollte ein bisschen rumfahren, damit er besseres Netz hat.
Because we're going to make sure we inform everybody that they can let their voice be heard, and failure is not an option.
Jalen, what does voter suppression look like to you?
A perfect example took place recently, Carrie, in Kentucky. It was 6 p.m. at night, and so many people were standing in line enthusiastic to vote. And you know what they did?
Die haben es ja gerade anfangen, bei dem Wetter gerade noch
They
nachts.
continued to bang on the doors, continued to bang on the windows. They continued to let it be known they were not going to leave the premises until they got a chance to vote. And you know what ended up happening? They opened those doors and allowed those people to vote. So do not be discouraged. These barriers show you that it matters.
Der steht gerade vom Epic Games Studio.
To help you break through them. The same thing with our platforms and voices, Carrie, because you know what's going to happen. At some point, Breonna Taylor is not going to be trending anymore. People are not going to be protesting anymore. But it's still up to us to keep making sure that our voices get heard, and this is one way to do so.
Right, and that is a form of being activated, being an activist. It doesn't have to be protesting. It doesn't have to look like what you think traditionally activism looks like. It's voting. It's that simple.
We now have to understand, like, this is a critical mass moment for this movement to continue to hold up as much steam for as long as possible. And That's what this collection is going to hopefully allow for that situation to happen.
Jalen, in today's age of technology, it should be easier to vote.
No doubt. It's like we call these devices smartphones, but yet I can't vote for them. All of the things that we do in our lives are in
Die
our
dacht
phones.
mit.
All of these barriers are things that people will need to overcome in order to create a level of enthusiasm to vote.
Ey, komm schon, die schauen doch heimlich unseren
This is
Stream.
not political. It's your right to do so. And there's so many times where you feel like somebody may have gotten done unjustly in your community. Pay attention to who the judges are.
Ah, okay.
Who's running for Senate, mayor, governor. Pay attention who's running for president. And let's make sure in 2020 we make a difference.
Why is more than a vote so important and invaluable in our community right now?
Well, because right now, I think we have an opportunity to let our voices be heard louder than ever. Anytime you see the mobilization of white kids holding Black Lives Matter signs, that means there's a breakthrough. Now, what happens with that breakthrough is the next step. You're going to look down in your email, Carrie, you're going to see all of these companies telling you how they're going to work on their diversity, how they're looking themselves in the mirror. They need to make change. Just like in sports, right? Look on the field, on the court, all those black players. The further you get up, it's like altitude or a ladder. It gets thinner and thinner. And so a lot of people talk about the system being broken. I hate to remind people that it's not broken. It was built this way. And one of our ways to help change the system is to vote. So that's why more than a vote is so important. So we can make sure everybody
Philipp, du hast falsch rumgeschrieben.
participates and gives themselves an opportunity to let their voice be heard.
I think it's interesting because you talked about black men being very powerful in the U.S. if they're athletes and entertainers, because for so long those have been the only avenues traditionally to create wealth. The NBA season comes back. What are your feelings on the season coming back in the midst of everything that is happening?
Challenging the
Sprechen jetzt einfach bis 2 Uhr durch.
You're going to see them saying, okay, if you have all of these marketing and promotional deals, how many of them are with
Die
minorities?
sprechen einfach bis 2 Uhr durch.
How many
Bis zum
people are you
Itemshop.
employing in NBA?
Die machen das doch mit
What about
Absicht.
certain teams? Who do you have as a minority owner? Or what about the candidates that you have for positions of power?
Ich denke mal 2
NBA
Uhr,
players have proven
wenn so der Itemshop sich
as
aktualisiert.
blacks that they are now movers and shakers in the game. They're now the dog, not the tail. So if they decide not to play, some of the biggest social changes and conversations have taken place in sports that weren't during the game. Colin Kaepernick was before the game. The Ali Summit was a press conference. So they could mobilize if they chose to. But when and if you do play, challenge the league. Black Lives Matter on the jerseys. Continue to make sure that every time people are watching the game, they're also seeing the movement happen.
Jalen, I appreciate you because you are always entertaining and informative at once. I really, truly am looking forward to the NBA season. Thank you for working with More Than a Vote because your voice, your platform, all of it is needed, my friend. Be safe, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I love and appreciate you. One call away always.
Thank you. Love you, brother.
Love you too.
Every conversation that we had today, I hope was helpful for you. I am so grateful to everyone who came on with me to talk about
War
what's
die in
going
der
on in our
Sonne?
culture and how we need to change. Huge shout out
Diese,
to Jalen
ich meine,
Rose,
das wird nicht böse, aber es
Bundy,
sieht ein
Jason
bisschen so aus.
Hayward, Yvonne Orgy, and Russ. Their words were inspiring, but also important and invaluable. I hope your phone is full with all the information that we've been able to place in front of you. Again, you need to check out these resources because they are so important because we want you to vote. That is your voice. It is important. We, the people, want you to vote. So go to morethanavote.org, fairfight.com, and whenweallvote.org. Again, thank you so much for joining us and paying attention because this message, again, is invaluable. I'm Carrie Champion for We the People.
Jetzt so ein 2 Stunden langes Outro wie beim Filmkino. Kann ich jetzt wenigstens? Nein. Ah, weg. Zurück. Ah. Zu viel Informationen auf einem. Ja, Ende. Warte. Ende. Ich hol das Ende. Hört man wahrscheinlich nicht, deswegen. Oh Gott, das wird jetzt meinen Ohren kurz wehtun, aber. Ich weiß. Ich gucke ja meistens nur auf die Uhrzeit. So. Oh. Leiser. So. Bevor der Item... Ach null, stimmt. Bevor der Item Shop sich aktualisiert, könnt ihr, wenn ihr wollt, den Creator Code FuntimeHD einsetzen. Müsst ihr nicht. Ist nicht gezwungen. Wäre nicht schön. Wenn ich vielleicht wieder irgendwann mal ein Brötchen davon kaufen kann. Die sieht nicht gut aus. Komm, wir haben ein bisschen Twist. Er wird niemals, denke ich, glaube ich, OG. Hoffe ich. So. Ein bisschen rein muss man immer. So. Mit wem gucken wir mal heute? Wir gucken mal mit Midas. Battle Pass. Wieso musst du laden? Battle Pass muss erstmal laden, okay. Ändert sich. Das geht auf die Hüften. Glaube ich auch. So. Ach stimmt. Mal wenn so ein Sturmgewehr schießen würde. Oder eine Pump, so. Ein Sniper. So. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Immer noch da. So, rote Jade. Aus diesen 10. Corona-Style ist auch wieder drin. So. Wir haben halt viele Season 10. Sehr schön. So, da haben wir dann hier Einschlafenhilfe. Okay, damit kann man echt einen zum Einschlafen bringen. Dann haben wir Nachtfliegen. Also wie wir. Okay. So, dann haben wir Lackierung. Gefällt mir jetzt nicht so doll, ist ja einfach nur ein bisschen Gold und ein bisschen animiert. Da haben wir dann ja Kirschen. Das wäre tatsächlich ich, wenn ich ja kurz von Einschlafen bin und streame. So ungefähr. Ja. Dann gehen wir zu Raptor. Ist jetzt Season 1 dabei. Hat ja auch jetzt einen Stil mit Schimmer zu Halloween. Aber die weibliche aus Season 9. Velocity. Bombertasche. Dann Hängkletter mit Sturmbomber und Partylöwe. So, das gibt. Ich weiß schon, was ich machen muss. Doch, Philipp, es gibt einen Grund zu lachen. So, es gibt Pizza-Pyjama mit einem goldenen Pizzastück auf dem Rücken. Und nochmal normal. Nicht Pizza. Käse. Da haben wir die rote Verteidigerin. Tim sein Mainskin. Und Philipp, es gibt was zu lachen. Das Gerät hole ich mir. Dabei einmal wackeln. Noch. Und dann Zusammenriss. So. Aber das Gerät hole ich mir. Gibt doch noch einen Grund, warum ich länger streame. RTW spielen. Ja, ich streame halt ein bisschen länger. Ich habe ja eh Ferien. Ja, wie gesagt, nichts zu tun. Abspielen und Hallo, kannst du mich hören? Soll ich jetzt irgendwie ein Indiz sein, dass... Ah, stimmt. Jonesy, ja. Hallo? Kannst du mich hören? Ja. Ding. Das ist schon vorbei. Du müsstest nicht. So, da gibt es jetzt einen Grund, das den Stream noch ein bisschen herauszuzögern. RTW. Ich hasse das. Ich hasse das. Ton aus. So. Wie ein Fernton aus? Verstehe ich jetzt nicht. Verstehe ich jetzt nicht. Hört man das jetzt nicht mehr? Also hört man die Mucke nicht mehr. Hört man das jetzt nicht mehr? Also hört man die Mucke nicht mehr. Achso, wegen der Musik. Achso, wegen der Agentenmusik. Der Agency. Die gibt es ja auch jetzt auf Spotify, Fortnite. Zwei Jahre später. 20 Jahre. Ach, danke. Danke. Was gibt's denn heute so? Täglich? Wo ist täglich?
Briggs, es gibt ein kleines Problem mit deinem Expansionsplan.
Nein, gibt es
Ich
nicht.
weiß, die Generatoren machen schlapp. Aber keine Sorge, ich kümmere mich darum. Nein, das meine ich nicht. Hm? Wenn du sagst, die Generatoren machen schlapp. Lass uns lieber über deine Probleme reden. Die sind bestimmt sehr interessant. Ich weiß, dass du unseren Einflussbereich vergrößern willst, aber unsere...
Schön, ich muss Ninja spielen. Gute Nacht. Bis später irgendwann. Nimm ich Razor.
Fühlt sich noch jemand durchschaubar? Ich habe nichts zu verbergen. Nette Abwechslung.
Oh, sehr hübsch, es regnet Gold.
Ich habe noch nie so viele Sachen aus einem Lama gesehen. Tolle Sache. Ah, habe ich schon. Die habe ich auch schon.
Ganz schön mittelalter.
Das wäre alle Gold.
Oh, hast du ein Oh ja, fette Beute.
Ey, Tag und die Sabatron und die Feststange. Oh! Was? Irgendwas Mythisches. Irgendwas Mythisches war da dabei.
Ist dein Vater gern?
Nein, mein Vater ist nicht
Spaß
da.
damit. Sieht ganz schön scharf aus.
Das sieht aus wie ein Lineal aus.
Ja, nimm es mit nach Hause.
Ach, ich bin schon zu Hause.
Ich will auch.
Ja, du hast, worauf es ankommt.
Wer hat Angst vorm Sensenmann?
Keiner.
So bin ich.
Komischer Stock. Ende
Gelände.
Nette Heugabel. Gut, dann mal los. Haha, und gib's mir.
Hat's grad falsch angehört.
Ganz schön dicker Ball.
Den gleichen Timer.
Oh,
Nun, so bin ich.
Das wüsste ich, wenn du so bist.
Wie sicher sind nochmal diese Röntgenstrahlen?
Nicht sicher. Tau.
Das klingt gar nicht gut. Das Finale wird absolut reinhauen. Rock'n'Roll, Mann!
Okay.
Ich stehe auf Hammer the Best Musik ins Gesicht.
Das war ein Bau.
Dieser Gag ist eine Katastrophe.
So. Was gibt's hier so Schönes? Ich glaube, ich werde den Stream doch beenden. Nee, den legendären will ich nicht weggeben. Den kann ich aber weggeben. Die habe ich eh zweimal deswegen. Ah, hier habe ich komplett durch. Mythische Anführer gebe ich noch nicht weg. Oder Personal zumindest. Die epische lege ich weg. Okay, würde ich einfach sagen, ich bin in Streamen, hoffe es hat euch gefallen und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!